Welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Books That Save Lives Heart Wisdom panel. I'm so happy to be here. But look at these beautiful faces. It's so good to see all of
Eh.
you. Um, and today we're going to be talking about navigating grief of all kinds. And so that means we're sort of open to whatever we want to talk about in terms of grief. And I just thought for a moment, we'll just start by for me, hand and heart is always kind of a nice, but you don't have to do that. If you want to close your eyes or just take a deep breath and just, I know that for many of us at any given time, there's some or many griefs that are walking alongside of us or inside of us, and that I'm so grateful to be in this group and this group of like people who are compassionate and loving and kind, and that whatever people are arriving with today or someone watching in the future, that hopefully whatever we share in this conversation might help you to feel seen and hopefully less alone. And I also know that Chelsea and Juliana, our two authors, will be sharing some great practices. So just wanted to offer some gratitude and let us all feel safe in this circle today with a topic that can be kind of hard. So, oh, I got a little teary just even saying that. Just with my, I think my own gratitude to you for being here. And as we always do, we'll start by having our guest authors share a little bit about yourselves. And I was hoping while you share about yourselves that you might throw in like maybe what your favorite practice at this moment is, or most effective practice at this moment of navigating your own grief, wherever, whatever that is. So, Juliana, we'll start with you. Hi, it's good to see you again.
Hi, everybody. So good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Yeah.
Oh, am I introducing myself
Oh,
now?
yeah. Yeah, whatever you want to share about yourself, your work. I see your book, so you can,
Right, right. Yeah.
let's, yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Juliana Bruno. I'm the author of Reasons to Live. I also have a forthcoming book called The Authentic Self Project. And I am the host and creator of I Care About You podcast. And I have a new little podcast that's kind of bubbling up from the surface, which is more of a local Bay Area kind of thing. And it's called Far Out Lit Love. And we talk about lit, all kinds of books, our favorite books. And we have a little panel and it's fun. So that's me. That's who I am. And I'm really just so happy to be here and so happy to be part of Books That Save Lives.
Juliana, it's so good to have you back on the Heart Wisdom panel. Do you have a current favorite practice
Oh,
around
what's
grief?
my favorite practice? Yes, I have a few really simple ones. So I've been really working a lot with self-compassion lately and just how if you really look for self-compassion, you'll see it everywhere, but you don't recognize it as that. Like it might be something as simple as one of my favorites is the pause. Just pausing for a moment, taking a few deep, slow breaths, hand on your heart, like you said, that and putting some pressure there, not just your hand on your heart all limply, but really putting some pressure there that I see you, I care about you, some simple affirmations you can say to yourself. And then I also like this one. This reminds me of my grandma used to do this to me all the time, just you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay, you
Mm.
know, just those simple little things that you do in a second. And everyone takes a breath when something happens. We use our breath all the time, but we don't think of it as a compassion practice, but it actually really is. So those are kind of the things I do when I only have a second, to really just give myself some love, some compassion. It's going to be okay.
Juliana, those are so beautiful. I just loved, especially when you said your grandma used to do this.
It's
I don't know,
just so,
I just
doesn't
could
it? It,
feel
it
her
puts you
love.
right back to your childhood, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah,
nobody does that to you now, not even,
that's true. Yeah,
Mm.
I love that. Thank you for giving us that. Yeah, so that we can hold our own precious faces. That's
Right.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Chelsea, good to see you again. We were saying, I know that you started being a guest on our Heart Wisdom panels way back, I think during the pandemic days. So it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. My book, The Son-in-Law Survival Guide, I'll show you a picture of it. It came out during the pandemic. So yeah, so that brings me back. But I was thinking, the name of Books That Save Lives. I'm like, oh my God, that's such a bold name. But then I thought, when I wrote my book, The Son-in-Law Survival Guide, you know how you write the intro at the end, my last sentence I wrote was like, I am healed. So I was like, oh my God, I think this book saved my life,
Mm.
because you had to
Oh,
learn, you had to process all your emotions, all the different kind of losses as you write your book. So it's cathartic, it's helpful for the author. So I was like, wow, I think I really wrote this book for myself. Here I was thinking I was being guided to help other people, which of course our books help other people. But I'm like, oh, this book was for me. So that name is so apt, Books That Save Lives, because I could have been stuck in grief for a long time and pretty much ruined my life. I mean, I
oh.
feel I'm through it, I'm healed, I'm happy, I'm joyous. But had I not took a proactive approach to grief, that wouldn't have been the case. And I think a lot of people are like that because they don't know what to do, where to go. We get so many mixed messages. So that's just how I wanted to introduce my book because it just struck me a couple days ago when I was preparing for this. I'm like, oh my God, ding, ding, ding. So,
Thank you for sharing that, Chelsea. And how beautiful. What a beautiful introduction to your book that it saved your life, that it healed you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
think that's just the effect books can have on people, whether you're the author, you're the reader, because you're always going to find that right book at the right time. We have that divine guidance coming in to help us. And then for my practice, which I wanted to share, it's easy, easy. Um, but I do it a lot, is with our thoughts and our actions, mainly with my thoughts, I'm like, is this thought helpful or harmful? Is this thought, this action, this belief coming from love, or is it coming from fear based on the Course in
Mm.
Miracles? The two emotions, we only have the two emotions, love or fear. And most recently, I started doing, when I think this or do this or whatever, is this expansive or is this constrictive? So those are the questions I run through my head. And I feel the expansive, constrictive encompasses everything, like all the
Yeah.
different tools we learn. We all want to expand and be happier. But when we have thoughts or actions that constrict us, make us not feel good, that's lowering our frequency. So just that one question, how am I feeling? Expansive, constrictive. Um, it just has helped tremendously. It's like an umbrella for all these tools and practices we learn.
Oh, Chelsea, that's so beautiful. And it's reminding me of something that I've been in so many multi-layered griefs, and I think we're going to be talking a little about some piggyback grief and cumulative grief and grief that's on top of grief. But one of the things that I've been paying attention to is what happens when I change my language from I'm grieving so and so to I'm loving so and so
Oh,
right
right,
now.
right. Yeah,
And
that's so neat.
I feel like that speaks exactly to what you're saying because one
Yeah,
feels sort of constricted, I'm not saying we shouldn't use the word grief. I'm just saying for
right, right.
myself,
Yeah.
sometimes changing grieving to loving makes it feel like there's a life and aliveness and a present day love that feels like you're saying expansive.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, am I loving or unloving? And I love that, the grief and the love. And we know they're intertwined, of
Of course.
course, but what a beautiful way to say it. I think I might start using that. I like
Well,
that.
Well, and of course they are, I'm sure this is one of the things we'll touch on. I mean, that they are the same thing, and yet sometimes the language as we're used to it in our culture can lead us to certain places that
Right,
I love what
right,
you're saying.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
yeah. Well, and I love it when Brenda's here, which we've been looking to have you here so frequently, Brenda, who is, of course, one of the co-founders of Books That Save Lives and a very prolific author in her own right. And Brenda, I always love when you're here and you can kind of bring like, yeah, what you love about these two authors or what you want to share about them.
Absolutely. Well, Juliana came to Books to Save Lives in a very unique way. My volunteer work, because I feel like we all need to do something to give back to the world. And so that's with the Women's National Book Association. And we have this thing called Pitchorama, because the whole purpose of Women's National Book Association is it's an advocacy, a nonprofit to help women writers and also women get jobs and internships and things like that. And so we had Pitchorama, I think this was 3 years ago, and Juliana was pitching a memoir. And at the time, like, my the person I worked, my employer, like was very anti-memoir. And so whenever somebody even mentioned something in the ballpark of memoir, I would think, oh my goodness, like how do I help them? Because I'm there to help them. And so I just asked Juliana about like her platform, like what she did, like what was she doing, like to establish herself, in the marketing world. And she was telling me about about her service that she did with counseling for especially teens and young people that were having suicidal ideation. And I said, "Oh my goodness, it just so happens that I'm looking for a suicide prevention book." And so it was a magical moment. And the funniest thing about it, I think that Juliana and I both think this is the funniest thing, like most synchronicitous magical bit of it was that she was in her pajamas. Of course, no one can tell like on Zoom, right? You see from like here up, like so you could be wearing whatever crazy outfit. She was in her pajamas because like she was on the waiting list for Pitcherama and just got in at the last
Oh,
minute. Like so she literally had no time to even like, get fancied up. Pajamas are fine, I think, for any Zoom. I like it cozy. But like I felt and I remember telling everyone that would listen, like, oh my goodness, like the very book that we've been looking
oh,
for like just came in this magical way. And then also I was charmed by Juliana because like she's obviously a creative, a writer, a counselor. I'm probably crafter. I'm leaving out many things, but surfer. That was my like. I was like, oh wow, you don't get cooler than that. So whenever I talk about her to our sales reps or any kind of presentation, I always manage to like add and surfer. And in fact, you just moved to be closer to the water, right?
Right, 100%.
Right.
I can walk to the surf spot, so yay.
Yeah, yeah. So like there's like a special place in my heart because Juliana like is like if there's a Venn diagram of me, like she's solidly in both my publishing house side and then the Women's National Book Association side. So I sort of
oh,
that feels very special to me. And then Chelsea's book came in sort of more properly, like over the transom as a submission, a formal submission. And then the timing of the sudden loss survival guide was really important for me because I was just about ready to go through the sudden loss of Mr. Chen. And
mm,
like I've probably even said this in some heart wisdoms, but I'll say it to anyone when we're talking about the love of a loss of a loved one. It's the sudden ones. It's almost like there's the 7 stages of grief, but when it's a sudden loss, I think you need to add one because there's the shock of it. You have to accept that it really happened. Like,
yeah,
did that really happen? Like, and like it doesn't feel real. So there's an extra layer of grief. And so that's why Chelsea's book is so important to me. And I think both of their books are extremely important. I know they've saved lives. And so, that's what we're here to do. And so I feel honored to have published them. I feel that serious about like the importance of those books and making sure that people hear about them and know about them as resources because when grief happens, whatever kind it is, you need help. And these books are just rich, deep resources. But in terms of my practice, I went back to something I did. I used to do this like all the time when I first moved to San Francisco Bay Area. And it's called claromancy or bibliomancy, where you pick up a book and just
Oh,
randomly open it up.
yes.
And so I do that once a day and then like sort of sit with the message that came through. And of course, oftentimes it's a Books That Save Lives book that's right there on my desks plural. They like are loaded with Books to Save Lives books. So this is Karen Casey's Peaceful Aging. And we just had her on Heart Wisdom with JJ very recently. And
Yeah,
what came
yay.
up, yeah, what I claromancied is so beautiful. It's so this is it. Hear it in Karen's voice. I hear it in Karen's voice. So don't listen to it from my voice. Imagine that it's Karen speaking. Remember, it's not about doing big things ever. It's about doing small things in a loving way.
Hmm.
It's
Wow.
about doing small things in a loving way. And I felt like that was just, that's the wisdom I need for today, along with heart wisdom.
Oh, Brenda, I love your stories about our authors. I feel like it's one of the most special things we get to do here is to hear those origin stories. And say the name of that practice again. I know the practice.
Claromancy, but it used to, I think, I mean, it's actually an ancient Roman, believe it or not. It's like an ancient Greco-Roman. They usually only had like, I mean, they had very few books, and what they had were poetry. That's actually like either even another word. But it's bibliomancy is the easiest way because people especially where I come from in West Virginia, the Bible is the book they have at hand all the time, right? Like on their
Right.
bedside, like on their desk, like in their car, like, in the pew with them at church. And so like you open that up and see what message is coming from God or Jesus or whomever. But like, claromancy is what I think that's actually the Greco-Roman phrase for it. So that sort of takes if you don't want to be too Bible-y about it, you can call it claromancy, but either one works.
I love that. And I try to do that whenever I pass a little free library,
Oh
sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, I like to just kind of like, okay, what wisdom is right here? Thank you. Thank you all for that, those wonderful practices. And again, I know that we're talking about all kinds of grief and there's all places to go. And I love that both Juliana and Chelsea brought us something to read from their books so that we get a chance to hear a little of their voices. And I know, thank you, Macklin's been posting the links in the chat. So I always encourage people to actually buy the books. And if you already have them, buy them and put them in a little free library so that someone else can benefit. But Julianne, I know that you have a reading for us to sort of launch us off.
Right, right. Okay. I'm just going to read a little something to start us off because I want to acknowledge that the topics that we're going to talk today are heavy. And in that heaviness, when you're working through it, it's also okay if you experience a little bit of joy now and again. I remember when my mom died, I just felt so awkward thinking anything was joyous or, the joy of seeing family members that I hadn't seen in a long time because we were gathering for my mother's passing. And then feeling so much guilt, guilt about these moments of joy when I'm supposed to be grieving and I'm supposed to be in grief. And so often we make grief a trait of who we are, and it's hard to step out of that. So I just want to, before we begin, acknowledge joy that may be in the room or that you find yourself with. And this is from chapter 4. Your joy is valid. Joy, grief, Sadness and despair can coexist inside you, along with everything else you experience. When I was in the depths of depression, I remember feeling guilty about the joy I experienced. I stuffed it down because I was honing sorrow and cultivating joy was not on the list. Over time, when joy cropped up, it was unexpected, and I had almost forgotten how to enjoy it. It felt like a luxury I wasn't allowed to have. It
Hmm.
was almost like I was doing something wrong or naughty if I was joyous, and I felt I wasn't worthy of that joy. Joy is something I was waiting to feel when I came out of the dense fog of sadness that I had wrapped myself in. It felt like a reward I would get if I behaved or decided to be like everyone else. I will let you in on a secret here. Everyone else is you. All the other people out there have emotions that are not acceptable in pleasant company. All the other people out there have things that happen to them that bring them feelings of shame, loneliness, despair, regret, embarrassment, grief, or whatever. Remember, you are not alone. This thought of being weird if you have feelings is a social construct that we have fallen into, some sort of macho or cowboy up belief we subscribe to, even though it isn't serving any of us. It's not a weakness to have feelings. It is profoundly human and part of the human experience.
Oh, yeah, that's so beautiful.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. Thank you. And what a lovely way to start us off to remember that, right?
Mm.
Was it Alan Watts who said we contain multitudes? Who said that? I don't
I think
know.
you're right. I think it
It
was
was
Alan
Alan Watts.
Watts.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say or whoever it was, thank you to them. But I take great comfort in that, especially during deep grief, to remember that, yeah, even in the midst of grief, like today was just that. Juliana knows this because we were emailing earlier, and I was like, I'm drowning today in it, and I can show up on this call and see your beautiful faces and feel your energy, and it calls forward another part, right? That is also there. And I think that that's something I love, Juliana, that you're reminding us all that it's kind of just normal, right? To have parts bubble up. Sometimes at separate times, sometimes all at once. And I love what you said about not feeling guilty about that when we're grieving, especially if we're grieving a death. It's beautiful.
Right, right. I've been reading this book, Stephen Levine's. I keep wanting to say Adam Levine, which I think is the lead singer of Maroon 5, but it's not that person. It's Stephen Levine, and he has this book, Healing into Life and Death. It's an older book. It's a super classic. It's a lot of people in the spiritual world know about this book. But anyway, in here he talks about how um, grief is always in us.
Mhm.
It's just sparked by an event that happens that brings it up for us. But, and I was really thinking a lot about that, and that's so true because when you experience grief, it has all these kind of roots to, loss, a relationship you lost in the past, a friendship you lost in the past, it just goes and goes down to 3 years old when you left your teddy at the train station, like the loss is it's always there within us. It's a human construct to feel grief. It's who we are intrinsically as
Mm.
people, as human beings. And I just really loved it when he said that because so many of us struggle with being embarrassed or feeling like there's something wrong with us that we can't get over our grief or that there's a timeline with grief and it's got to, we've maxed out our timeline and there must be something wrong with us and all these kind of things that support a negative viewpoint of ourselves kind of bubble up
Mm.
as we're experiencing grief um and I just love that he was just kind of saying, you know what? It's okay. We all have it. It's all there for everyone.
Yeah, Juliana, thank you. I love how you're weaving in self-compassion throughout this call. Like, I think you are, and that's important.
Mhm.
It is important. I think it's a really important aspect of grief. And also, again, I always say it's like two sides of the same coin, right? Like the love and grief or celebration and sorrow, they're just the same right? Because it's like we loved that childhood toy. We loved it. It brought us so much joy. And of course we miss it when it's gone, as
Right,
with
right.
jobs and people and life circumstances. And I was talking to someone yesterday about her daughter just turned 2. And already there's so much grief over the loss of the baby, the loss of the toddler, the loss of, as our children grow, they teach us all the time about like loss, right? Because they're constantly becoming new people. So I thank you so much for all that. That was really beautiful. And I know Chelsea, speaking of different kinds of grief, and I think you have something to share with us about cumulative grief. Yeah?
Yeah, the passage I'm going to read is called Identifying Cumulative Grief. Um, so I'll read it. And as I read it, just kind of think along with me of the different grief experiences that you've had, because it's kind of like an exercise. So you can identify them and then, well, I'll read it so you'll see what I mean. So you may have experienced many hurts over your life. In your youth, you may have endured the losses of friends, pets, homes, and family. As you got older, you may have suffered the loss of relationships, health, dreams, careers, or security. These accumulated losses can be unfelt or unacknowledged. Your past hurts cause a backlog of unprocessed feelings. This cumulative grief can make you unknowingly turn away from life, others, or even yourself. This sorrow can erupt anytime or be triggered by another loss. This grief can show up in symptoms such as physical ailments, fearfulness, depression, overworking, or addiction. This pain may feel overbearing yet familiar. So, next, I have a practice, and it's called Identifying Life Losses. So, reflect on the losses you've experienced in your life up to now. So, just a piece of paper or a journal, create a timeline from your birth to present day and note all your significant losses. So, as a side note, you could be like, this is what happened in my teens, this is what happened in my 20s, 30s, as a little kid. Include your related feelings and your age at the time of loss. List any type of loss, such as friends, pets, home, health, relationship, jobs, money, or status. And a side note, really anything that mattered to you. It doesn't matter how big or small it was. If it was important to you, include it. So then we would like to pay attention to how you work through these past situations. Note the healthy and unhealthy ways in which you dealt with your grief. Determine if any patterns emerge that will help you to cope with sorrow now. So basically, it's like we're building our resilience, our proof we can get through this. We're also identifying things that we didn't grieve fully. So I'll just give you an example I have in the book. When I did this exercise, I found unexpressed grief and feelings due to many things, including the death of my father. So I list my age 4. I felt sad, confused, and alone. Later, a new school and different home in an unfamiliar city. Age 8, I felt scared, powerless, unsupported. Loss of friends. Age 12, I felt betrayed, vulnerable, and ashamed. Then I also include a painful breakup, loss of financial stability, and workplace bullying. So I include the age and how I felt. Now, what we would like to do is review the timeline and identify any losses that weren't processed at the time and can be grieved now.
Oh,
So that's the key. That's what we're trying to get at this exercise. For example, I remember the painful change of moving that occurred when I was 8 that wasn't fully acknowledged. So I had to grieve this hidden pain from long ago, just like you may need to let go of old hurts now. Many people have unexpressed loss from past experiences, as well as generational grief that passed on from parents to children. When you acknowledge that this unresolved sorrow exists, it can move through you to be released. So honor and love all of your losses to facilitate healing. So my question in the book then is, what cumulative losses do you need to let go of? So basically the exercise, you're identifying them, how you felt, what the age, then you're going to go back and reflect on them. What did I learn? But most importantly, oh my gosh, I didn't grieve this fully because we are so cut off from our grief in society. Like we're grief avoidant. We just stuff the feelings down. So then when another loss comes, you might have this big eruption. Like when celebrities die, people like go crazy. It's because the
Yeah.
grief inside of them, they haven't let it all out. So I'm a big proponent of constantly doing work to let feelings out that are stuck in our body. You know, like the book The Body Keeps Score, that kind of work. So
Wow, Chelsea, thank you for sharing all that and giving us that actual tool to use. I have a follow-up question for you. When you talked about like, so you realized, oh, that move when I was 8 or whatever age you were, that young age that didn't really get acknowledged at the time. How did you bring that forward and grieve it? What was the process?
sure, sure. Well, it's interesting. We sold our house that we lived in for over 20 years. My husband and I, we lived there probably about 24 years. We moved to a new house to be in a different school district for my son. And the reaction to selling our house, it was horrible. I just did not have a good reaction. So when it was the grief coming up from not being acknowledged before. So then I realized this, and what I do is just a process called the peace process. It's so simple. I think many people don't know about it. It's kind of newer. Well, maybe not new, last 10 years it's become more known. It's just like the emotion code, finding the feeling in your body when you think like, oh, I feel like do you have an example I can use, like a loss someone's going through? Like, or how about I feel bad that my son left for college. I'm an empty nester. So when I think about that, I can feel a physical pain in my body. I have a spot in my back. So if you guys think about some grief you have and you think, when I think about blah, 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 X, you're going to feel it in your body. And all you have to do is keep your attention on that feeling in your body, and it
Hmm.
will eventually dissolve and disappear. It could take 10 minutes, it could take 30 minutes, it could take a couple days of work, but it actually works. And I have this process in my book, and it's the number one process that I recommend to anyone going through grief. Like, if that's the only process they could do, that is it. And even with success, you could be like, you can imagine, oh, I want blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be sell 1 million books. Let's pretend as authors. And so you tell that to yourself, oh, I'm going to sell 1 million books. And you might get a feeling in the pit of your stomach. That is what's holding you back. Or you may feel excited. When I say it, I get a funny feeling in my stomach. So that's something I still have to work through. That's just an example. I'm making it much simpler, but it's really not that hard. So if you really think about any thought you have, where is it in my body? And you're going to feel it. Like if you guys try it while I'm talking about it. So that it's in my book though. So, but that's how I work through it. So a constant process. I hope that made sense. So
It did. And I just thought maybe on a little whim, we don't have to do it for very long, but maybe even just for 30 seconds, maybe each of us could just close our eyes and try to locate, as Chelsea's saying. So if I understand, Chelsea, we're locating where that grief is sort of pull in my body is kind of a pulsing of pain.
yeah. So I'll lead it through for
Yeah,
you
will you
super
lead
quick.
us?
Yeah. So imagine, um, think about the loss you have going on, whether a job, a person. Let's do a person. When I think of that person not being physically with me, or you fill in your sentence, when I think about this, where do I feel it in my body? I'll do it with you, Sherry, so that other people can follow along.
Okay.
So, when you think about your issue, you don't even have to tell me what it is. Where do you feel it in your body?
Really strongly in my heart. My heart is like shattered. Yeah.
And is it like scale of 1 to 10? How intense is that pain right now?
I would say it's like an 8 right now.
Oh,
Really,
okay. And
really.
strong. And that's okay. What does it have, like a certain shape
Hmm.
or certain color? Like, can you actually see it?
Yeah,
Or
that's interesting because this is so beautiful, Chelsea. I've never seen this before, but it's almost like um a multi bladed knife, like piercing, 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 piercing,
Oh, okay,
like a
okay,
sharp, sharp. Yeah.
okay. So what I want you to do is just go back to that knife, just imagine it, kind of look at the edges of it, and all I want you to do is keep your attention there. Keep your awareness there. I don't want you to think about it. I just want you
Hmm.
to look at that feeling. Just pay attention to it. And it's going to move around a little. It might get bigger and smaller. So you're just placing your attention on that
Hmm.
feeling. And you're actually even going to send it a little love. And I don't want you to be
Hmm.
thinking about stuff. I just want you to place your awareness on that feeling because for the audience, we are processing what is stuck in your body. It's kind of like the oil candle. It never, that emotion never burned fully out. And it could be new for you, but just keep your attention there, keep your attention there. That's all you have to do. And now,
Hmm.
what number do you have? Is it still an 8 or did it go down a little bit?
No, it did go down, Chelsea, and I'm not just saying that. It really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's like
what
a
you
little miracle.
Yeah, so just later, just take 10 minutes, 30 minutes. And I find when I work with people, usually we can get it dissolved in 30 minutes.
Really?
And some it might pop up in another part or there could be a different aspect. And I'm not saying it's a cure-all by any means, but it could be one little aspect of your grief and then here's another little aspect. So you just keep working through that process. So,
The thing that I'm so struck by with that is, I'm thinking about meditation and the process of like when we're with something, it seems like what we resist persists, as they say, right?
right,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's like it's so painful, and I'm like, no, 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 I don't want that. But what you're saying is, no, go there,
Yeah,
go
and we're
there.
not going after the thoughts. We're just going after, okay, when I think about this, where do I feel it in my body? So we're going after all the stuff that's unresolved, unprocessed, and we're just giving it the attention that it never had because we're taught to
Oh.
stuff it down, not talk about it. So I believe differently than many people that the grief can be processed through our body. I believe we can be grief free. And I know a lot of people don't believe that, but that's my belief just from doing this work for so long on myself and other people. So, yeah, I know everyone has a different view, but it's just a tool to use out of the many tools we're sharing. So,
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to turn to Juliana for a sec to see, do you have, I know you've looked a lot at cumulative grief and the pain of it. And yeah, did you have anything you wanted to say to that?
Boy, it's such a big topic, and I think it's so easy to um, kind of have a loss that you're grieving and then to start building on it and building on it and building on it with all the other things that you've experienced in your life that haven't been joyous and wonderful and the best thing ever.
Mhm.
And you can so easily just make it this huge catastrophe in your life, this huge thing that's really like a construct within your own mind. Like you could
Hmm.
choose to think about it differently, right? You could choose to think about all of these times you've experienced grief and loss as the greatest lessons of your life or turning points in your life that led you to where you are now. Or you can think it's a catastrophe and you're not smart enough and you're not worthy enough and you're not good enough to have positive things. And of course, the universe is out to get you, and everyone's out to get you, and this person that cut you off in the car is out to get you. And, just kind of you build on it and create a reality that is really your own reality. How many people have you known, the couples where one person thinks the world's out to get them and everything nothing ever goes their way and they have the worst luck ever, and the other one is this complete optimist, everything's great, fantastic, and they share the same home, they share the same
Ah,
bank account, they share all the same things, the same car, the same everything, but they have created this reality that's different from each other, and it's all because of how they're choosing to explore and be curious and think about things and to imagine that they can think about them in a different way and not just in the way that they think they're supposed to think about them or to
Mhm.
use it to build on negative beliefs they already have about themselves, right? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, that so I see that a lot that people will they have a hard time getting out of it and of course grief has its own timeline for each person and it comes back around, you know. Like I just 2 days ago I went to the beach. It was so wonderful. Took the dogs. It was great. The waves were great. Everything was amazing. It was just amazing. I left work early to do it. It was fantastic. And on the drive home, I put on some chanting music and I just started hysterically crying
Oh,
because just
oh,
like um it's something sparked me to think of someone that I lost, and I just started hysterically crying all the way home while I'm chanting along. And it's just it's just it comes back around when you least expect it. You think you're
Yeah.
over it, you're done with it, and then here it is again. And just being able to approach it with curiosity rather than a mechanism to beat yourself up about is such a different mind shift. Like why am I doing this? Why is this coming up now? What do I
Yeah.
need to give some attention to?
Juliana, I love that. And it's bringing up a question for me, a follow-up question for you and or Chelsea or anybody else who wants to answer. But it's like I like to think a lot about like authentic pain, authentic grief, like what you're talking about, where something just kind of whoosh, there's a wave of something, you know.
Mhm.
And then sometimes I get a little unclear, even though I've been meditating for a long time, on what becomes a story. Like I wrote down when you said we can make grief a trait, or like I thought in my head, sometimes it becomes a story of loss or a story of the moment versus like, okay, that whooshed up over me and now it's passed through, you know? Do you guys have any like helpful hints for anybody who's like trying to discern, yeah, am I creating a story of this or is this authentic and it needs to just let itself move through me?
Well, I would say that your story is also authentic, but
Ah,
your story that you have about what happened to you, you have that story for a reason, whether it's things in your
hmm,
past have come up and kind of creeped into that story, or you let societal beliefs, which of course we all do, let creep into our stories, and our stories are true and real for us, but the difference in meditation a lot of the times is to come at it with just curiosity. Why is that my story? What is about this story that I need to hang on to that what am I finding? Am I finding some sort of security in this story, even though it's unpleasant? Is there some
ah,
security there? Like, oh, then I don't have to, you know, get back out there and do this, or I don't have to, forge ahead and, that I I can just stay here, and sometimes that's your comfort zone, right? Just kind of staying there because you know it. Even if it's
hmm,
horrible, this story's horrible, this grief is horrible, these feelings are horrible. They're what you know, and they're safe in a lot of ways because they're
yeah,
what you know, and so being curious about what you know, like is that a truth or is it just a thought? And why do I
mhm,
have that thought? And where does that thought come from? Trace it back. That's part of, there's a meditative practice that's very similar to what Chelsea was talking about. And um, Tara Branch started it or, really brought it into the framework of mainstream mindfulness. And that it's called RAIN. And you recognize what it's an acronym. So you recognize something, then you allow it to be present, like Chelsea was talking about, present in your body. What are the sensations? Where is it? What is the story? What are all the things? And then you inquire about it, come to it with curiosity. Why is it there? Why do I have this? Why does this come up for me every day? Why do I use this to just affirm that I'm not good enough for one thing or another? And then once you've kind of explored that, you nourish it You give it some self-compassion, you give it some love, you nourish. It's okay. It's okay that you have those feelings. It's okay you're here
Mhm.
right now. It's okay you can't get over it. It's okay. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And
Mhm.
end with this kind of nourishing space. And usually people will do that meditation for about 10 minutes. I believe that meditation's in my book too, if people want to look at that, but you can also Google Tara and you'll come up with so many different rain meditations
Or
that you can
you can
do.
look at the Books that Save Lives book, the first
Yes.
meditation for children, The Magic of Rain, which
Oh,
Macklin just added, and Tara Brach
Nice.
wrote the foreword and explains the methodology. And it's our best-selling book at the moment, and
wow.
Nice.
yeah,
I
it's pretty
love that kids are
exciting.
coming to meditation. That is amazing. I
I
love
love
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kudos to Macklin for that,
Yeah.
quick connection and
it.
putting that link in there. That was amazing. I saw that happen. I was like, whoa, she's amazing. I love that, the magic of rain. And thank you. Thanks, Juliana, for sharing that with us. I love really that throughout this hour so far, there's been a lot of practical tools to help us. I just wanted to open it up too right now to anybody who wanted to jump in, share anything, or ask a question, share a comment. We always love to hear from other people if you want.
Well, while we're waiting for other people to talk, I wanted to what's been coming up for me like in the last few minutes just talking about grief and loss is I think anyone that has come to a heart wisdom like recently knows that I have these pen pals that are on the front line of Ukraine and the grief and the loss is something we talk about frequently. I mean, they're very stoic. They have to be because they have to just carry on no matter what. They're defending their country, they're defending their freedom, they're defending their land. So they have no choice but to just carry on and do that. But like in like little moments, like they'll say, we've lost so much. We've lost almost everything. And I mean, thank goodness I've like, published quite a few grief books, including like the wonderful ones from Chelsea and Juliana. So I have some resources to refer them to. And then the trauma books we've published, like mindfulness for warriors. Like I've sent them chapters and meditations and things like that. In fact, there's probably at least once or twice a week where I will send them meditations and I'll say it might sound kind of silly new age, but it really works. It really works. And these were actually designed for like first responders and military veterans like you. But I can't help but wonder, like, I certainly hope that that war ends, and I would like every war to end. But then how do we help like an entire country heal? How do we help but I think we must if we're really doing our Books to Save Lives job,
Wow.
we it's incumbent upon us to figure that out. And so I would just sort of put that out there to people because there could be some free ebook that like we just like, give away to like whomever that needs it and make it available and publicize it. But I would like everyone to help us figure out how we can help the people in Gaza, the people in Ukraine, what the people in Iran, like the innocent citizens of Iran that are like being bombed day and night. Like we need help. So I would love everybody's ideas. You can email me, Macklin, like, whatever. We should do something. I threw out a threw out a whole big thing there.
Well,
I wonder, this might sound new agey, but I know we're in a powerful group here. I wonder if we couldn't even do something to have people send like a powerful blessing, a powerful intention to the people there. Because, when you have the power of all the people and we're one, in spiritual practices, just like you send them love and light. Like even just, I think our own one person is powerful. Like for me, I love to send people love and light because I think it makes a difference. And I know not everyone else would. But even if you get the book out with the meditations, all the help you can get them, I just think even one little thing about having this powerful prayer that people can say, because our energy will be behind it and it'll just be more powerful. I know I keep using the word powerful, but I think our minds are super powerful. So just this intention that's part of whatever resources you offer, I think would be helpful.
Hmm. That was beautiful, Chelsea. I know that was really beautiful. And I know different groups at different times have done like, meditations across the world, right? And things
Oh,
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, amplifies that each person's intention.
Yeah, and even just a written blessing to be included in whatever resources you
Yeah.
provide, because one person reading it, 100 people reading, 1,000 people reading it, I really think it makes a difference because as our frequency goes up, I think it helps with
I love
providing.
that. I love that. And I'm going to go, if it's okay, from the big global, not to take away from that, but wondering, because Juliana had brought this up in an email to me, also like starting with the one-on-one, or even how we speak to a nation that is grieving.
Mm.
But Juliana had brought up like sort of switching the way that we're looking at things from, how do I take care of myself? What are my tools? To now looking at like, how do we support others, right? Like, and Julian, I don't know if you wanted to sort of say anything about that, but even in the language we might use, whether it's a blessing to an entire nation or a friend in front of us who is suffering.
Right, right. I think that, boy, there's so much to unpack with that, right? I first want to start by saying that the suffering of others is our suffering,
Mm, mm,
that we are all connected in some um, beautiful, magical way that we don't quite all understand. But the suffering of everyone is our suffering too. And it's, are we going to turn away from it, or are we going to turn towards it? Is the question that we ask ourselves, right? And I think so often when you're faced with someone else's extreme grief and loss and hardship, or a nation's extreme loss and hard times and struggles, we as a Western culture, we lack any tools for that. Like our friend comes to us, they have some grief. We don't we've never been taught, like, how do we come to that? How do we respond to that? And often we'll respond with some toxic positivity or something. Well, you'll get over it. Maybe if you go to this barbecue, you'll feel better. And we don't have those deep, hard, rich conversations with one another because we're afraid. Basically, it's fear that is, as my daughter likes to say, it's fear that's keeping us here. It's the fear of, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't know what to say. No one's ever told me this before. And it's so important to forge ahead anyway, to know you're going to make mistakes. You might not say the right thing. You can even say that. I might say the wrong thing here. I'm a little worried about what to do, but I want to support you. What do you need so that I can support you? What do you need? Do you want me to call you every day and check in? Do you want me to be the listener to your talking it out? Do you want me to help you drive you to therapy? What do you need? Sometimes they're real basic skills like, yes, drive me to therapy. Can you bring me some groceries? Can you
yeah.
send me $20? Sometimes it's real just physical kind of things that we can do, but often it's this emotional work that us Westerners don't know anything about. We're afraid of it. We're told to be stoic and, cowboy up and all the things. And and that's a weakness if you cry or show grief. I mean, I'm a huge crier. I will literally cry at anything that touches me somewhere, and I've been embarrassed about that my whole life. Like lately I've been like, screw that. If I'm gonna go here and I'm just gonna cry the whole time and people can deal with it. Or I don't have to be embarrassed about having emotions because if I show emotions, that opens the door for other people to show emotions. And it's just really about giving us that permission. Give yourself permission to have them. Give others permission that are struggling. I'm not going to do it right because I don't know what you really need. I don't have these tools. I'm still honing these tools on how to help people. So
Mm,
please tell me, what can I do for you? And if I say something or do something that is adding to your pain, please let me know. Have those honest conversations, and be a good listener. Don't try to fix it. Sometimes it's just about listening. And that is the biggest help anyone can ever have. Some people don't want fixing. And it's good to ask that too. Like, do you need a solution or do you just want me to listen?
yeah.
You know, what do you need? And then I'll do that. And do it for real. Don't think
Mhm.
because they're in the driver's seat. You don't know. They're in the driver's seat. You're here to assist. You're here to support. And in that case, you might take the wheel once in a while, but you give it back.
Yeah. Oh, Juliana, that was so much, so many good, beautiful guidances in there. And I was reminded when you were saying all that, again, this is something that you had emailed me, was that phrase, you are not alone.
Hmm.
And I think, whether we're talking about globally, speaking to a whole nation or speaking to one person, to me, that's such a beautiful statement because I think oftentimes we can feel alone in what we're going through. And simply knowing, what's the name of your podcast? I forget.
I care about you.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's so nice.
Whenever I hear the name of your podcast, even though it left me for a moment, right? I think that there's brilliance in that, right? That people, we're in this crazy, distracted, fast-paced world, and it can feel like nobody has time to care about us or to be with us. And those words, I care about you, you're not alone, even if we don't know the other quote unquote right things to say, I feel like there's a lot of comfort in that.
Oh gosh, so much so, so much so. And I also think that's why it's there's a lot of rhetoric a while ago. I haven't heard it so much lately, but things like protests do nothing, showing up collectively, that doesn't do anything. What are you really going to do? You're just showing up with a sign for 2 hours and then you go home. And I'm like, man, you don't understand the power of what's happening here in the just the collective community that shows up on a street corner, not knowing each other, but has a
Ah,
cause all together. It's like when you go to a show, a concert, and for 2 hours you're a community, this tight community that picks each other up in the mosh pit and, finds the shoe and gets the person's glasses and does all the,
oh,
gets water for folks and all those things. You're this community. You've come together to say, I'm not alone, you're not alone. We're not alone in what we're thinking, and what we're thinking is valid, has a purpose, has meaning. And somebody that drives by in a car who was afraid to go to something like that
yes.
also feels that, the power of, like Chelsea was talking about, making the energy, starting the energy flow in that direction of where you want it to go is really, really powerful. So just showing up for a candlelight vigil is powerful. It's powerful. It's we're not looking for tangible results here. Like, we made $500 at the candlelight vigil. That's not the purpose. The
Right.
purpose is connection and community.
That was so beautifully said, and you probably didn't know it, but you were wrapping up our hour with that.
Oh,
I think that was actually perfect because I think, coming to that place of like say, especially when you said, it's about the coming together, it's the community, it's not always some sort of tangible result that we can see or quantify. But yeah, and I love how that sort of echoed what Chelsea was saying about sending the blessing, sending the love. I know we could probably go on for many, many more hours on this, and maybe we'll get to have a part two. But I just really want to thank you, Juliana and Chelsea and Brenda and Macklin and JJ and Therese and Betty, everyone who's here, because again, the energy of showing up for each other, right? Of being here together. Never underestimate that. Never underestimate the power of your presence and how that can add to people's sense of community and comfort and togetherness. So thank you so much. Thank you, Books That Save Lives. Where would we be without you? Thank you. Um, and so we'll see you again. Macklin has been so wonderful about sending out the invites and letting everybody know when we're doing these. We're shooting for twice a month, so keep your eye out, and we'll see you next time. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.